Good afternoon, everyone. I'm thrilled to say this is my first Emerge, and I'm a new, very happy Miami citizen, along with my 16-year-old daughter. And I want to give the biggest shout out to Melissa Medina. She's one of the first people I met when I got here as a single working mom. She's plugged me in. The work she does is amazing, and I think platforms like this are so critical to navigating the highly transformative times we're in and some of the issues we'll be talking about on this panel. So very quickly, Shobhit and Olga, can you introduce yourselves, your titles, and kind of your focus area?
Sure, please.
Very nice to be back here. Emerge was one of the first conferences I participated in when I moved to Miami full-time a few years ago. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you to Melissa for organizing and running it. It's been a great forum for my company when we moved here and started building our tech presence here. My name is Olga Naumovich. I am head of technology for Millennium Miami. I see a lot of friendly faces here, even through the lights. Hi, guys. Yeah. We are a big hedge fund with more than 70 billion under management. Miami is our third largest location, and we are actually building our presence here with the tech emphasis. So most of our people in the office are engineers. So that's the short introduction. And Shobhit?
Thank you so much for having us here. I'm Shobhit Varshney. I'm a senior partner in VP in IBM. I am accountable for all of our data, AI, and automation business in US, Canada, Latin America. And I run this across all the industries that we serve, both the federal, state, as well as commercial. And we partner across all the different AI vendors. We do a lot of work in Florida. We love the state. We partner a lot with Miami-Dade County and a lot of big enterprises that are based here in Florida. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you both. So AI is our big umbrella for this discussion. But could you both tell me, under that very large, very unpredictable umbrella, what do you see as the singular biggest shift in the workplace right now? Not in 3 years, not in 5, but today. Olga?
I always give these examples that on one hand, yes, it's a new technology. And as any new technology, it triggers something that we humans severely dislike, which is a change. We like everything to be status quo. We don't like to adapt a new environment. We don't like anything new. Having said that, I also keep reminding people the only thing that we face that's constant in our lives is the change. Right? So AI in my mind is something that is bringing change, bringing this unpleasant feeling of uncertainty, how it's going to affect us. I'm sure at least all of us, at least once over last week, discussed what the new job is going to look like, how my job is going to change. So it is going through all of our minds. So that, I think, is the biggest change, funnily enough, and that we're facing right now. And I think the faster we embrace it in this technology, the better off we are. Another funny anecdote, just for all of you old enough to remember in the audience, when internet was introduced, the amount of anxiety and discussions how it's going to displace people was most likely similar to what we're experiencing right now, but it generated more jobs at the end than less jobs.
Yeah, absolutely, and I would echo her thoughts too. AI is definitely having a very transformational impact on the day-to-day lives of each one of us in our personal lives as well as work. Within the workforce itself, what work gets done and how work gets done is drastically changing. Right? There's a good tandem of, hey, can we get a better appreciation of where AI can do the work better and augment humans versus what are humans truly good at? So we're all moving from more task-based work to now getting more capability-driven. So we're trying to figure out, hey, I need to accomplish this overall thing. And that's the capability that we are judging people on. The quality of work is going up with the advent of AI across.
Let's dig into that. You work with some of America's greatest companies on these very topics. What would you say are the biggest handful of challenges for enterprises specifically when it comes to adopting the AI workforce transformation, and how can they navigate them successfully or relatively smoothly?
So I think it's a dual question, yin yang. It's doing the right AI and doing AI right. Right? So on the first question, you need to understand, are we changing the way work gets done? What's our overall strategy? Do you really understand how will you move the needle? So there are a lot of use cases of AI that could be mildly entertaining. People who want to go mess around with AI will do that quite a bit. But if you take a step back, and when we work with the large board of directors or the C-suites, we're typically looking at this top-down. You're saying, here's your overall strategy. If, say, you're a mortgage company and you can go process a mortgage in 24 hours versus 21 days, does that meaningfully move the needle for you? If it does, then let's look at what happens the next level of how work gets done, which means that the workflows change. That has an impact on humans, on how humans get trained on different things. And then you get to the tech and data at the bottom end. So just figuring out what AI is the right AI to do. Does it meaningfully move the needle? Does it increase human capital, investment, things of that nature? That's very critical for us.
Olga, I'll ask you the same question. In your fast-paced financial industry, how do you approach this workforce development? And
I think it works for us really well. The way we're organized, we have more than 340 investment teams, and each team is seamlessly connected to the engineering or technologist team. And the way I think we approach the problem solving is more from an internship perspective, so people try to be very nimble in their feet, and it's a little bit more localized solution making than general kind of big corporation solution making. So as new technologists, it's been a successful, what I think we also call grassroots entrepreneurship, moving from beneath, seeing what works and then implementing it. And if it works for a couple of teams, there is potentially a case to make it work for the bigger organization. So that's one. Second one is, and I will keep referring to it, as a seamless integration of technology and our investment teams. I've been saying it for years now. I actually cannot longer distinguish where the finance ends and technology starts. I think we really melted into one thing. Like, think about it. You go take cash out, right? It's technology. You talk to any banking function, from a customer service to investment service to institutional. We're completely intertwined with technology, so it's one of the same. So, and the third one, training is not a one-time thing. And also my constant refrain, we constantly need to be learning. I think if we learn to learn, that's what will get us to the next level, and that's what we're focusing on.
Shobhit, can you share a specific anecdote or example of how you've driven this kind of transformation in advisory sense? Like, what works?
Yeah, so the way we look at processes in organizations, you typically have a multi-step process, and you figure out that, hey, now that I have exponential technologies available to me, how do I re-engineer this? Can I get ahead of the problem? You start with your true north, and you say, I want to serve my end customer. We're working with a large healthcare company where you have a lot of people who are filing for benefits, claims, things of that nature. A lot of them are servicemen and women, and you're coming back and you're looking for care. The whole process is very cumbersome if you think about it, right? The whole process of paper-based, and you're trying to understand what happened. When you're starting to serve the end member and end customer, there are a lot of things that you can leverage AI across the chain to get ahead of this. If I know that you're looking for an allergist, I should also look at the fact that you need a referral on paper, or is this particular doctor out of network? You can go look at this ahead of time. Right? So being able to predict where there may be friction points and stuff in that particular journey end to end. When you start applying AI across the whole chain, you look at this data exhaust that the whole process is flowing through, you look at some amazing differences you can make in the end consumer experience. So true north, in this case, customer experience. You reverse engineer and see, here's how the entire workflow needs to change. And then you apply AI and data across the whole process to re-engineer this to serve the one purpose of driving better customer support.
Olga, I want to toss over a similar question to you. I mean, you're leading technology at Millennium. Global, diversified, 70 billion AUM. Where and how do you ensure AI is leveraged effectively?
One way it does work to our advantage, because if you think about it, we have a lot of teams and we do go and actually figuring out what would make the biggest difference for each team. So we are constantly in search of trying to understand where the leveraging new tools will get us to the bestest, fastest possible delivery to the client at the end of the day. So if you figure out the purpose first, the training, then you implement it, and the way we're set up as even we're a big company, we still think that entrepreneurship is one of our biggest quality. We implement it and we move along. More practical examples, like AI is much better at processing huge levels of information than a human, right? So if you're trying to get the volume processed in a more concise way, that's easy task or the low-hanging fruit. Image recognition tends to be better than human, right? So if you combine all of these aspects and you see which investment team benefits from it, you implement and you move with that.
So if I'm extending on her thoughts, there are like 3 different buckets where we see AI at scale across organizations, and I'm speaking for all industries across the US. The first bucket is broad productivity. Winfrey Oprah style, you get a co-pilot, you get a co-pilot. Everybody has a little bit incremental benefit to their day-to-day work, right? So everyday assistance helping you slightly better. Improves the quality of life quite a bit. Doesn't quite translate into business value as much as the C-suites would expect it to be. So that's the first bucket of broad productivity. The onus is on the end person, on the end user, to make sure that we are able to leverage AI in our own day-to-day work. The second bucket is where you start to get to massive value unlock. These are things like there's a whole process of how things get done. I am a big automotive company, I have a supply chain of parts, or I'm a credit card company, I'm approving credit card applications. Those processes, when you start to map them out, it's a big spaghetti mess. And now you have the opportunity with AI, generative AI, robotic automation and stuff like that to re-engineer this entire thing. So the second layer is where we see a lot of value unlock in organizations. The third bucket is decision making. There are some places where there's a small set of people who are making an outsized decision. So for example, you are an airlines and you are trying to price the first class ticket. You have a lot of analytics on the economy price, but it's a multiplier or some rules based. Can I apply better algorithms to get better pricing? Or I'm a credit card company, I give you 85,000 points to get a platinum card. What if I give you 70,000 or 90,000? So you're making these different decisions. So decision optimization, you get an unfair advantage if you're applying AI really well. So those 3 buckets, productivity, like massive workflow transformation, and then decision making.
One thing I love about doing these conferences, one of many, is that I learn so much. And I'd like to bring up a topic we were discussing in the speakers lounge around decision making in the broad sense, but the agent versus the traditional model, many of the things you enlightened me about, which I'll let you discuss, and then I'll have a follow-up for you, Olga.
Yeah, absolutely. So for the last decade, we have been working with very fixed flows, right? If somebody asks a step-by-step process, I can go on a whiteboard and write it down. So when I hire a new PhD from MIT with multiple degrees and stuff like that, right? That's like getting a really, really good AI model. We'll have very, very strict guidelines and workflows. We're now moving to a point where AI, within the right guardrails and guidelines, can make some narrow decisions on its own. So let me pick a very simple example. If I ask a chatbot today to make a reservation at a restaurant, that's very straightforward. We've been doing it well for the last 10 years. That's not a problem. 7 o'clock, reservation for 2 people. When I ask the same question to an AI agent, we're expecting the AI agent to behave more like a human and make some narrow decisions on its own. As an example, if I asked my admin to go do that, my admin knows me really well and would say, you're going to be off stage at 6:30. I don't see a way for you to get there by 7 o'clock given the traffic. The favorite restaurant you went to has the spot open at 7:15. Can I make a reservation there? So it's making some narrow decisions on its own and activating it. It's going beyond the structured flow. That is an AI agent. So we're now pivoting, the entire industry is pivoting from fixed flows where I tell it what to do to an AI agent which has access to tools. It can do a little bit of thinking and reasoning and actually execute things on my behalf. Chatbots chat, AI agents actually get work done.
I will add to that. Completely agree. I will add, if you really imagine how it's interfering in our words right now. I'm obviously not a native speaker. I always give this example. It takes me slightly longer than a native speaker to write an email, for example, if I want to write it in a formal format. Right now it takes me no time because I write it directly into my AI window and I said check my grammar, it puts all the right commas in the right places, I'm good to go. So that's the 15 minutes, extra 15 minutes I have today because it actually frees my time to do something else than check my commas and semicolons. I know it sounds like a silly example and it's not exactly the agent example, but imagine if we're actually connecting it to the email box and you have an agent sitting there and constantly correcting for the fact that you're not a native speaker. It's a time save. If you are searching for the tickets, as you said, for a restaurant, and you have a suggestion, not an annoying adverb, but the actual suggestion saying that you might want to look at this restaurant, right? So that efficiency, that saves you time. It may be you're not thinking about it as a time saving because when we're thinking efficiency, we're thinking copilots, that some part of the code is getting written, which is happening and it's very important. But it is going to affect pretty much every aspect of our life little by little, and if it saves 15 minutes on every task you've done, you just got 3 extra hours you never had. That's powerful. And positive. No, go ahead.
Oh, I thought you were continuing. Yeah. No, I'm going to pivot a little bit, and I hope this will be an optimistic pivot, but I'd be remiss not to raise one of the main pillars that people always do around the AI discussion, and that is job displacement. How optimistic, pessimistic are you around that? Or perhaps more specifically, how should leaders prepare companies, prepare their workforces, upskill? Please advise on this overall fear.
I have a very positive take on this, and I think every significant technology shift we have seen, the overall human output has gone up. The economic output of all of humanity has gone up significantly with every shift that we have had. So I think we will be able to get more done doing the right AI and so forth. But I think we do have to pause and figure out what's the right tandem between us and machines. And I'll pick a very, very simple example. When we, as humans, got dishwashers in our houses, we do not expect a dishwasher to stand up and start washing the dishes the way humans do. What we did instead is we figured out how to take a human process and we changed that to play to the strengths of the machine. So I think getting a good appreciation of where AI can truly augment and help, and you're transforming a problem to play to the strengths of the machine and vice versa, right? So that kind of a tandem is what's needed for us to be able to improve the economic impact and so on and so forth, right? And this has to be a more community-led exercise. So I think the biggest thing that artificial intelligence needs is community intelligence. It's us, all of us together, that need to figure out what's the right tandem between us and machines and where do we play to our strengths versus the machine's strengths, right? Then the economic output of all of us goes up, and it's not a zero-sum game in my view. There will be certain shifts of what kind of roles change and transform to a new world where you're leveraging AI to do even more and even better. If I was serving a patient in a hospital, I would want to be able to look at every data point I can for the service of this one patient. I'm constrained by how much I can read simultaneously. But that constraint gets unlocked when I'm applying AI and other things to it. So I think once we figure this out on what's the right tandem between us, I think then sky's the limit.
I'm very positive about new technologies. I think we wired weirdly. I love change. I thrive on it. I like uncertainty. It's something that I keep joking keeps me young because I constantly learn something. So 2 points I want to make. I think of AI as an augmentation. It's actually a great example on a dishwasher machine, right? It's different. It's not, I don't want to use the word sentient. It's very powerful, and it is going to affect what we do day to day, but it's not us, right? So as long as we learn to live with it and use its power to our advantage, we're all better off. More jobs, more efficiency, more time for creativity, more time for doing something else that you don't like to be doing. Thus, the dishwasher, the washing machine, the drying machine, all technologies that came along and freed up time. The other aspect on that term, first time in front of me, been used by my good friend, the president of Miami-Dade College, the difference between knowledge economy and information economy. Yeah. So information economy is what we lived in so far, meaning that whoever has the best access to information does have a competitive advantage. We are moving from information economy to the knowledge economy because information today, with today's tools available to us, it's almost at zero cost. Being able to distinguish which part of information is useful to you versus not useful, that requires an expert to be able to get to the end goal to deliver the best product to your customer. That's the knowledge economy. So long way of saying that if you learn as a human to use AI or any AI-related tools, the agents, what's going to come out of this technology efficiently, that's what's going to make a difference and makes you and your company very successful.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about using AI to make leaders, companies more efficient, more lean, more profitable, but what about making workplaces more human? Do either of you have any anecdotes, advice, examples on how AI can drive better culture, well-being, employee engagement? Is that a concern of yours?
No, absolutely.
How culture's affected?
No, absolutely. And like within IBM, as an example, my team, our consulting, we are about 160,000 people globally. We need to make sure that we are enabling our team members with the right set of technologies that can make their day-to-day work better. One of the things that we have been very careful about is it's a very grassroots level up motion for us, right? So empowering them, enabling them, training them, right? Everybody, like as an example, we recently ran a Watson X challenge across IBM, and hundreds of thousands of us, like 178,000 people across IBM, we looked at ideas on how I can go apply AI in my day-to-day workflow, right? It's very grassroots level up, which means you are enabled on the technology, you can start trusting it, but you are the one who is in the driver's seat. Centrally, we are building all the assets that are needed, but we are democratizing all the innovation across in our day-to-day work. So as an example, when an IBM consultant comes and works for large airlines, that particular consultant brings 10 assistants and agents that are tailored to the way we do our specific work. That enables us to just unlock a lot of value for our clients, but it frees up a lot of our time. So when we are at a client engagement and we're working with them, the team has more time to hang out. We are starting to build free time, like you said, like freeing up 15 minutes every now and then. You start to unlock a lot of time where you can do more meaningful work. You're now delegating the task-based work to AI and agents, so you can then elevate yourself and you're doing more meaningful, capability-driven work. So the quality of life has gone up quite a bit.
I have to say it, I'm a math major. I'm logical, not emotional. But in the freeing time, I think there is so many studies, I can't even start quoting, that's correlating the level of your personal happiness and doing meaningful work, right? Meaningful is a very interesting definition. It's what you define as meaningful, right? But in any case, if you free up your time to do meaningful work, what you define as meaningful, that actually, when you go home, you feel fulfilled, you feel happy. whatever we can add today, exactly as Shobhit was saying, that's what makes a difference, right? Because right now, I think it's also very famous statistics. In pretty much today's jobs, 20% is interesting, 80% must happen. I don't think we'll get to reverse proportion of it, but if we shift these proportions, we're better off. So I think that definitely adds to well-being and overall just feeling that you have a purpose. It's also, as I said, powerful.
I'll give a quick example. I was here in Miami 2 years back, and we were doing a panel on stage with call center representatives. I work with a large organization where we had transformed the way they handle calls, which means that instead of a human call center agent being on the phone taking mundane tasks, they were now starting to shift their day-to-day work to training AI to go do this, right? So the subject matter expert, the call center rep, who has been doing it for 17 years, she was the one who was creating the content for AI to train on, and she was guiding AI and training it, right? During the panel, we had 5 of them on stage, and one of our customer service reps, again, 17 years in this profession, she teared up. She was trying to explain her family, her kids were grown up, 2 boys, and her husband, the amount of respect that she was getting now because she was training AI and she had elevated herself, and oh my God, in the entire family, she's the one who actually knows the latest, greatest, and I'll ask her a question. Her kid in college was coming to her with questions instead of her dad.
That's amazing.
She got so emotional, just the personal pivot that she had made in her own life. And I think it's very, very rare for us to get to a point where in our careers, only a few times in our entire life, we get a point where you can completely pivot. So at this point, you're not going to get people who are doing AI for 15 years, right? So you have a very, very narrow window where you can outlearn anybody else. You don't get these opportunities too many times. So outlearning and getting ahead, that is the biggest equalizer. AI is an equal opportunity enabler, right? That's extremely important.
No, that's a fantastic story. Yes, deserves an applause. And unfortunately, we're nearing the end of our time. I have many, many more questions. However, I think I'd like to wrap up with this last one. We've talked a lot, and many of these events talk a lot at the high level. Big corporations, big money managers. The thing I've loved on my inaugural Emerge today is the amount of students everywhere. I hosted a few other panels, seeing young people, 20, 19, physics majors asking questions is super meaningful and actually super inspiring for the next generation. So with that said, I would ask both of you, speaking to that student, young person, perhaps 22-year-old getting out, starting to do their first real job or a startup or joining a company, what is like the most basic piece of advice you would give them around entering this new workforce and how they can kind of grab it by the reins?
Learn to learn. It's going to make a difference for the rest of your career, because even if you think if you're a developer, whatever language you learn will be an obsolete in the best case scenario in a couple of years, and the worst case scenario in a couple of months. It's moving too fast. So the real distinguishing factor will be how quickly you can acquire a new skill and apply it at the place you are at that time. In my mind, that's literally what's going to make a difference over the next couple of decades.
That's great.
I would say I would wish I was in your shoes today. In my entire career, I've never been at a point where I would rather go back to school or get to learn as much. Within IBM, for example, we have something called Think 40. Each one of us puts 40 hours of training every year, everybody from CEO all the way down. Last year, I put in 640 hours of learning. That's more than 10, 12 hours a week. Right. And I'm trying to find ways of where I can learn. Today's generation has access to free learning like no other generation ever had. Right? I can go spend time on YouTube, on Academy, and all these different. Every AI company is giving free courses out. Within IBM, as an example, more than half the jobs that we have online right now, or that are posted, more than half of them don't require a college degree. We are a skills-first company. Just show me that you can go hack stuff up, and you have a job. Right? So we're at a point where this is the first time in all college history that you can outlearn anybody else. Nobody else can come and say, I have 10 years of experience in this industry. They can't, because AI has not been around that much. And the amount of free learning that's available to you, if I can carve out 640, take the challenge. AI is an equal opportunity enabler. Go after it.
What a great way to end this. Everyone, a round of applause. Thank you both for the work you do and for joining me on stage. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.